Ronald Koeman, with his deep footballing insight, has revitalized the Netherlands by blending traditional Dutch principles with modern tactics. Despite a challenging group stage, coming back and winning 2-1 versus Poland, drawing 0-0 versus France, and losing 3-2 to Austria, the Dutch have emerged as a potential dark horse for Euro 2024. Here's how you can replicate Ronald Koeman's Netherlands tactics in FC24. The formation for the Netherlands does chop and change depending on the opposition. They can go with a 3-back system, deploying a 3-4-2-1, or they can look to use a 4-2-3-1 system and shape that can look to alter and change throughout the course of the game. It is important to understand that both systems will look to try and control proceedings versus the opposition, looking to often overwhelm them on the offensive end whilst also providing a good defensive outlet. The tactical approach for Ronald Koeman with this Dutch side is all about aggression, whether it's in possession of the ball or out of possession of it. They'll always look to press and probe and make sure that the opposition are always uncomfortable. And like I say, when they are in possession of it, they'll always look to play those forward passes to try and exploit and overwhelm their opponents. Now, taking a look at the defense and the defensive style, it will be set to pressure on heavy touch. Now, at times, this can be set to a press after possession loss, but I've gone with pressure on heavy touch as I do think it implements their very good defensive structure whilst also implementing a good aggressive press in certain moments. Now, you can also intensify this press with the D-pad and of course using team press and second man pressing. You do want to keep the shape and structure, making it very hard for the opposition to break down, but at times you will see your frontline players, press and probe and maybe cause a mistake or two that can lead to a counter-attacking opportunity. The other defensive instructions will be set to maintaining a 50 team width as well as implementing a mid-block at times with the team's depth being set to 60. Now this will help in possession of the ball more so, as well as looking to create that nice cautious approach, not really looking to exploit the defensive backline of this Dutch side. Now, the team width being set to 50 does create this good man-v-man system, especially when you are looking to aggressively ramp up the tempo of this defensive side. You want to have that man-v-man situation where you can always look to aggressively press them. The offensive tactics for the side will be set to slow build-up, having a balanced chance creation as well as maintaining a 40 width. Now, you do tend to see the Dutch side playing out from the back, having the goalkeeper implement that first phase build-up, looking to play short passes into the back line where they can look to either dictate where they can go long into the forward line, going a bit more direct at times, or playing a bit of a shorter pass into the midfield. You will also see that the chance creation is set to balance, implementing both the possession-based brand of football as well as the direct, more attacking transitional-based brand of football that we have also seen from this side during Euro 2024. You do tend to see the wider players getting in behind, looking to penetrate the opposition's backline countless times. And this does tend to create a bit of a cautious approach from the opposition, where they will look to sit a bit back, not overly looking to aggressively press. And this can lead to a bit more space being generated in the central zones for your players to go ahead and maintain possession with. Now, the width will be set to 40 as the Dutch team under Koeman do tend to attack the central zones a bit more, having the wider players in your wingers and sometimes your fullbacks, depending on which fullback we are talking about. But they will also look to hug the touchdowns, generating a bit more width in the side, but more so you want to try and stem your attacks from those central zones. And then, of course, the players in the box is set to a very high 9 as they do tend to overload and overwhelm the opposition in the attacking third. With committing so many players into the box, it does tend to lead to a lot of opportunities being created from either a crossing or a cutback situation. And you will see that a lot of your deeper lying midfielders will make an edge of the box run to try and be as involved in the attacking outlets in the box. And then finally, the corners and the free kicks should be set to 4. Onto the individual player instructions and roles for these players. Now, starting off at the front with the striker in Memphis Depay, who will be set to maintaining a drift wide approach for the support runs. We don't normally see him acting as the central focal point of the attack at times. We do see him, drifting out wide, either to the left or the right-hand flank, where he will look to operate and combine quite effectively either with the wider left or right players. We will also see him play as a false 9. Now, this does change depending on if you have the likes of Depay or another striker in this role, whereas the likes of Wouter Weghorst will have a bit more of a central focal point using his physicality to the team's advantage, but we will talk about him soon enough. So you do want Memphis Depay to be set to playing as a false 9. This will help him combine quite nicely and effectively with the likes of Xavi Simons or maybe even one of the wider players. This will also help him vacate that central role and have quite a bit of overloading and overwhelming in that central attacking role for the players in and around him. The interceptions will be set to normal, and you want him to also maintain a basic defensive support, allowing him to sometimes drop a bit deeper, help support the defense, get into that nice defensive structure. And other times, we do see Memphis Depay staying further up the field and being a bit more of a counter-attacking option. Onto the role of Cody Gakpo as that left midfielder. Now, he will obviously look to come back and help out on the defensive end, looking to try and support Nathan Ake down the left-hand channel. But he does tend to stay slightly wider at times, looking to hug the touchline and look to try and stretch the player as much as possible because, like I said earlier, the wider players, they will look to generate a lot of the width, looking to generate a lot of the central space for your midfielders to work into, and on the odd occasion, some of your defenders as well. So Gakpo will be a key figure in looking to try and stretch the player as best as he possibly can. The support runs for him will be set to maintaining a balanced support. We do see Gakpo holding up the ball quite effectively, looking to be a wider target man at times. He can look to use his pace and run in behind and press and probe and make sure that he is looking to create a nice cautious approach for the opposition backline, which will in turn create a lot more possession for this Dutch team. The interceptions will be set to normal, and for the likes of Cody Gakpo, you want him breaking into the box as much as possible, looking to arc his runs into those attacking zones. The right midfielder who has been swapped and changed at times, but we have gone with Frimpong. It could even be a Daniel Marlin or potentially even a Xavi Simons, depending on who Koeman favors for the particular game. But he has favored Frimpong over the last few. So he'll be set to come back on defense, always looking to help out Dumfries, who will be slightly more attacking of the two fullbacks, as well as he will be instructed and told to cut inside, paired up with the fact that he will be using a lot of his pace to break in behind. You do tend to see Frimpong combining quite nicely with Simons at times, looking to operate almost as a secondary number 10, whilst using his pace to try and stretch the opposition on a more vertical plane, where he will be very much available for those potential long balls and that direct play from the backline players or even one of your defensive midfielders. The interceptions will be set to aggressive, as he will look to press and probe slightly more aggressively down the right-hand channel, as well as he will also maintain a balanced crossing run. The attacking midfielder for the Netherlands will be set to come back on defense. This will help him, yes, tuck into that defensive shape and structure, making it very hard for the opposition to try and generate a rhythm in the midfield zones, but it will also give him a naturally deeper starting position so he can get on the ball with that shorter, more, first phase build-up play when you are looking to play out from the back. The support on crosses will be set to maintaining a balanced crossing run. You do want him in the box as well as, circulating the play on the edge of the area. So setting it to balance will incorporate a nice happy medium. Although I will say more times than not, because players in the box is set to 9, he will make those attacking aggressive runs into the attacking zone. Now, I have set him to drift wide because you often see the likes of Xavi Simons picking up the little half spaces, attacking the pockets of space, looking to work into those slightly wider areas of the field. So you want him to be set to drift wide, where he can look to combine quite effectively and nicely with the wider midfielders. And then finally, the interceptions will be set to normal. A player who has definitely impressed for this Dutch side has been the likes of Reinders. Now, in this role, he is deployed as a number 6, but with these instructions, he will play as a number 8. So you want him to be set to cut passing lanes, as you do want him, as well as Schuiten, looking to try and break up the midfield play from the opposition, but you want him to be able to get forward, breaking forward, looking to link the play between the midfield and the attacking front four, looking to get into the box in certain moments as well, and be a very good facilitator of the offense. The interceptions will be set to aggressive, allowing him to incorporate that aggressive nature that he does possess, as well as his insane stamina and work rate, looking to always win the ball back, whether it's on the offensive end or on the defensive end, looking to contribute as much as possible. And then finally, the positioning freedom will be set to stick to position along with cover the wing for the defensive positioning. His midfield counterpart in Schuiten will also be set to cut passing lanes. You want him to maintain that aggressive, zonal behavior, whilst the attacking support won't be as attacking as Reinders, and he will be set to stay back while attacking. He will be more of the deep lying playmaker, being very important in that first phase build-up, but you'll also see Schuiten spray those long ball passes into the front line or out to the wider players, where he will look to try and stretch the play and set the tone of the offense. And then finally, you would want and require him to try and screen for the backline and protect the central zones. The two fullbacks have two very different roles. So the likes of Dumfries will be set to join the attack, often overloading and overwhelming down the right flank, because he will always look to overlap the right midfielder, and in this case it is Frimpong, and you do tend to see quite a good combination play between the two of them, both being able to use their pace to get in behind and penetrate the opposition's backline, as well as both being able to be a very good outlets down at the right-hand side. Whereas the role for Nathan Ake will be set to stay back while attacking. Now, we have seen at times in the tournament so far that Nathan Ake, when the fullback system has been deployed, he does have some freedom and license to break forward, and that is something that you can do whilst controlling the left back himself. The run type will be set to mix, as we do see him when he does occasionally get forward, overlap in certain moments, or potentially provide an underlapping run for the wider player. The roles for both Van Dijk as well as De Vrij are slightly different. We have seen that Van Dijk is more of the cover centre-back, whether he plays for Liverpool or the Dutch side, and he will look to try and cover for the likes of Stefan De Vrij, who won't be too aggressive with it, but he will be a bit more imposing on the opposition, looking to engage a bit more than the likes of the Dutch captain. So you do want him to try and cover and try and defend with his aura. I am only joking about that, but he does tend to cover quite effectively for his defensive partner. And last but not least, the most important player in the formation and having the side work with its modern day tactics, it will be the role of Verbruggen, who will be set to come for crosses as well as play as a sweeper keeper. Now, you aren't playing the highest of lines, but having him play as a sweeper keeper will still protect the likes of a Van Dijk, a De Vrij, or maybe even a Nathan Ake, depending on how the opposition might look to exploit them. You also tend to see quite effectively Verbruggen be very physically dominant in the air. Of course, you've got juggernauts in your centre-back departments, and they can also look to try and clear the aerial duels and win the aerial balls. But also Verbruggen can do the same role and job. He'll also be very important in looking to try and facilitate that first phase build-up play, looking to play either the short passes into the centre-backs who are well capable of being able to play it from the back, or alternatively, he can look to go a bit longer, and he is very accurate with his passing out from the back, so he can look to go a little bit longer into the wider players or up front to the strikers. At times during the Euros and even in the build-up to the Euros, we have seen the Dutch team implement a three-back system, whether that's starting off with a 4-2-3-1 and then slowly evolving into the game and formulating this 3-4-2-1 system and shape, or just naturally off the bat starting off with it. So we will see quite a bit, depending on how far the Dutch do tend to go in the Euro 2024, we will see quite a bit of chopping and changing between either a 4-back or a 3-back system and style of play. The tactics will still be set to the same, as there are no major changes or requirements needed in order to facilitate this formation. And when this 3-back system is deployed, there are a few player roles and instructions that do change, starting off with your wider centre-backs. Now, Ake as well as De Vrij will both be set to overlap, looking to help combine quite effectively in those wider channels with the builder play, or just trying to support the attacks from those wider spaces. You'll see here for De Vrij, he does have a slightly different set of instructions to him, so he will be set to overlap, but he will pair it up with conservative interceptions, helping him keep the defensive shape and structure down this right-hand side. Your two central midfielders, and Schouten as well as Reinders, they will more or less try and follow their defensive midfield instructions, and you more or less want to help create that very effectively, but they are deployed as central midfielders. So the role of Reinders will be set to maintaining that box-to-box role very effectively. And when he does get forward, you want him to try and stay on the edge of the area. Either that's looking to circulate play, or on the odd occasion, breaking into the box himself and looking to get on the end of a potential cross or cutback and try and pop off a shot for himself. The interceptions will be set to normal, and you want him to cover the central zones as well as stick to position. Onto the likes of Schouten, he will be set to stay back while attacking. Of course, you want him being the most defensive player of the two, and he will more or less maintain the same instructions as the likes of Reinders. Stay on the edge of the box as well as cover the center and stick to position. Onto your right midfielder in Dumfries, who will still maintain that right back role, or the right wing back role, I should say. He'll be set to come back on defense, always looking to track back and help support the likes of Stefan De Vrij down the right-hand channel. Staying wide will be essential, as well as having him get it behind and penetrate. This will provide a lot more penetrative runs for your attack, looking to try and press the opposition back in their own half at times, almost looking to pin them back when this Dutch side have full control of the game. The interceptions will be set to normal, as well as having a balanced crossing run. The left midfielder will be Cody Gakpo in this role, so he will be set to maintaining a basic defensive support. So yes, he can look to track back every now and then, but more so the likes of Nathan Ake does tend to lock down the left-hand space. He will also be set to maintaining a balanced width. Now, this can help him drift inside, or more so maintain that wider left channel. A balanced support is required for him, as he can look to try and implement both the getting behind approach as well as being the target player, looking to use his body and his physicality to try and hold up the play down that wide left space. And then finally, the interceptions will be set to normal, paired up with the fact that you do still want him arcing his runs into the box every now and then. Frimpong, as a right attacking midfielder, will look to drift in and out of the central spaces, so he will be set to come back and help back on the defensive end as much as possible, whilst also looking to support the crosses with a balanced role, looking to sometimes get into the box himself, other times stay on the edge of the box, and maybe facilitate a cross or a cutback situation. He will also look to combine quite nicely with the role of Dumfries, looking to drift into that wider right-hand channel. And then finally, the interceptions will be set to aggressive. Now, with the two number 10s, at times you will see, especially if the opposition are pressing aggressively against your backline, the two number 10s will look to deploy a drop outside approach. And this is when they will look to drop into the wider channels and look to open themselves up for a potential pass. And quite often you don't see them being marked because the opposition don't want to vacate the central spaces for other players to go ahead and exploit. So this will often leave your number 10s in those wider spaces very much available for a potential pass. The role of Xavi Simons will be set to maintaining a basic defensive support as well as a balanced crossing run. Sometimes he can look to, help back on the defensive end, and also sometimes he can look to be on the edge of the area, but other times he can look to stay forward as well as get into the box and attack those crosses or cutbacks. You want him as well to not really always drift wide. This is a slightly different role for him. You want him humming in and around the striker, looking to more or less operate in those half spaces that the striker will create for him. And then finally, the interceptions will be set to normal. The role of the striker in the system. Now, Wout Weghorst will more so maintain these instructions, whether you are deploying a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-4-2-1 system. And the same goes for Memphis Depay. So for the system to effectively work much better with a more physical focal point, strong number 9, you want him to be set to stay central as well as play as a target man. Now, this will help him win the aerial duels back into the opposition centre-back, use his physicality, link up the play with the players in and around him. Of course, you don't have the strongest of frontline players in terms of their natural physicality. Both Simons and Frimpong are quite small with their demeanour, and they can look to try and work in the spaces that Wout Weghorst is creating for them, and that can lead to quite a few interchanges and link-up plays happening on the offensive end. The interceptions will be set to normal, and then you want his defensive supports, just like with Memphis Depay, to be set to basic. And there you go, people. That is how I would successfully implement the Ronald Koeman Dutch tactics into FC24 from Euro 2024, from what I've seen so far, as well as some qualifying games. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to smash that like button down below, as well as join the Discord. We are open to anybody and everybody who is interested in football chats, as well as FC24 tactics and all that good stuff. So if you have Discord and you would like to join, the link will be down below in the description for you guys to go ahead, click, join, and I will welcome you with open arms. Anyways, my ranking and rating for the system is going to be a 7.5. I really do like it. I like how you can shift and change formations at times, depending on what the opposition are trying to throw at you, and how you can more or less look to try and counter their offensive outlets or maybe their defensive structure in certain moments. So you guys will let me know down below how you like the system and the tactics and what you would give them out of 10. Anyways, until the next one, until the next time, I hope you guys have a goddamn smashing day, and I'm out of here. Peace.